Okay, think about this for a second. Every single complex organism, yeah, including you and me, starts its existence as just one single microscopic cell. It's honestly one of the most mind-bending paradoxes in all of science. Like, how on earth do we go from a solitary little dot to a fully functioning human being? Well, welcome to this explainer on cell differentiation. As we explore this together today, we're not just going to uncover the secrets to acing your Sec 2 biology exams, but we'll actually grasp the very foundation of cutting-edge fields like regenerative medicine.
So, here's the core question we're tackling today. How exactly does one single cell structurally transform into trillions? If you follow the path from that tiny, isolated cell over on the left, all the way across to the incredibly complex, fully formed organism on the right, well, it becomes pretty obvious that this isn't just a simple copy and paste job. We are talking about a massive, profound structural transformation.
All right, to get you perfectly prepared, here is our roadmap. First, we'll unpack the single-cell paradox. Second, cells as the building blocks. Third, we'll map out the differentiation pathway. Fourth, we'll tackle a massive pitfall, growth versus specialization. And finally, number 5, we'll go over exact strategies for acing your exam questions. Let's dive in.
Starting right off with Section 1, the single-cell paradox, from 1 to trillions. We really have to wrap our heads around the sheer, unimaginable scale difference happening here. It all begins with 1. Every complex organism kicks off as just one isolated cell. Now, zooming in on a micro level, it's just a single unit containing the blueprint of life. But, and this is the crazy part, when we zoom out to the macro level, that one unit holds the potential to literally build an entire living, breathing system.
From that single starting point, we explode outward into trillions. But, they aren't just identical clones. We're looking at trillions of specialized cells, each with completely unique functions. That variable right there, unique functions, is absolutely crucial. The entire structure of the organism completely relies on this massive diversification.
Which brings us to Section 2, cells, the building blocks. Now, before we trace exactly how they change, we really need to define what these basic units actually do. By definition, cells are the fundamental units of life. Think of them like tiny microscopic bricks. If we visually bridge the gap from the macro structure of a living organism down to the micro level, you'd see these individual cellular bricks perfectly stacked together. They physically build up the structure of literally every living thing.
But actually, unlike real clay bricks, these cellular building blocks are very much alive. These individual units autonomously perform essential life processes. We're talking growth, metabolism, and reproduction. A cell doesn't just sit there doing nothing. It takes in energy, it grows, and it divides. It is the active microscopic engine that actually drives the macroorganism.
Okay, let's get into the core mechanism of our whole explainer today. Section 3, the differentiation pathway. This is the exact sequence of how cells specialize. Let's follow this pathway step by step. Step 1, right at the top, we start with a single cell. Moving down to Step 2, division, that cell splits. But here is the critical moment in Step 3, specialization. As that cell divides, the offspring do not stay structurally identical. The path actually branches out as the cells begin to physically change so they can take on very specific jobs. Let's look at one specific pathway as an example. Starting with a basic stem cell, watch how it morphs into a nerve cell. Look at those really long branching structures stretching outward. Those physical changes are precisely engineered for a unique function, which is to transmit signals. The structure absolutely dictates the function here.
Or, take a completely different path. A stem cell can modify into a muscle cell. Notice its elongated, fibrous shape right here. It's structurally designed completely differently than that nerve cell we just saw. Why? Because its unique function is to physically contract and enable movement. And this structural uniqueness leads us to a pretty beautiful biological concept. This specialization allows for a division of labor, where different cells contribute to the organism's overall functioning. Since the nerve cell is handling the signaling and the muscle cell is handling the physical pulling, no single cell has to do every single job. The labor is perfectly divided across the system. All right, let's pivot to Section 4, growth versus specialization. This right here is a massive pitfall for students learning developmental biology, so let's make sure we navigate around it.
So there's a really stark contrast between these two mechanisms. Growth is simply an increase in sheer magnitude and size. You're just getting more of the exact same thing. But differentiation, that's when the pathway branches out into distinct, complex shapes. It's not just about getting bigger. Differentiation is strictly about function and structure specialization.
And this directly clears up a major misconception: cellular uniformity. Look, it's super easy to assume that every cell in your body is exactly the same. But in reality, there's a huge variety of specialized cell types, all with totally different shapes, boundaries, and internal components. Differentiation basically destroys uniformity to create highly efficient variety. Let's turn all this theoretical data into some practical results. Section 5. Acing your exam questions. Here's a classic high-yield exam question you are definitely gonna see. What is differentiation? Whenever you see this, I want you to instantly visualize that branching flowchart we explored earlier. And here is your mark-earning definition. Differentiation is the process by which cells develop specific structures to perform particular functions efficiently. Make sure you firmly tie those two variables together in your answer. The development of the specific structure is the direct cause of the particular function. Okay, let's look at a second worked example. Explain why cells are said to be the building blocks of life. This one is really testing your understanding of their fundamental, active nature. To completely nail this question, you absolutely must state that cells perform all life processes necessary for life. And hey, don't just stop there. List the explicit variables: growth, metabolism, and reproduction. By listing out these active processes, you prove exactly why these microscopic units are the true foundation of macro life.
Let's do a rapid-fire summary to really lock these concepts in. Number 1, cells are basic building blocks. 2, differentiation equals specialization. 3, this process creates a division of labor. And 4, growth is definitely not the same as differentiation. Remember, it's size versus complexity. When you go back and review your notes, focus heavily on how differentiation creates that complexity. And seriously, review your diagrams. Try to mentally trace the path from a simple, identical stem cell branching out into a vastly complex network. Visualizing that flow, that is your secret weapon to mastering this topic.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. How does all of this unlock the future of regenerative medicine? Well, if you understand how a cell decides to become a muscle or a nerve, just imagine the medical breakthroughs that are possible if we learn to control those exact pathways to heal the human body. The microscopic rules you learned about today are the exact same rules building the future of medicine. Keep studying those flowcharts, stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.